The night on the alien planet was cold and silent. Dust moved slowly across broken streets carried by weak winds. Tall buildings, once full of life, now stood like empty bones. Their walls were cracked, their windows broken, and their lights long gone. The city was dead but not forgotten. Something still lived there, hidden deep inside the shadows. A human traveler walked slowly between the ruins. His name was Captain Orion, a lone explorer from Earth. His ship had landed on this world for supplies, but something unusual pulled him deeper into the ruins. His scanner showed a faint signal, small signs of life. On a planet thought to be destroyed, such a signal was rare, almost impossible. Curiosity and caution guided his steps. Each echo of his boots on the broken stone sounded too loud, too sharp, like the ruins themselves were listening. Orion stopped. His eyes scanned the darkness. The scanner blinked again, life forms close by. He felt a strange chill, not from the cold air but from something unseen. His hand rested on his weapon, ready for danger. This planet was known to hold raiders and scavengers, killers who searched for weak prey. But what he found next was not what he expected. Inside the shell of an old building, Orion saw movement. His helmet's light flashed across the room. For 1 second he thought it was only shadows. Then he heard a sound, soft, fragile, a whisper of life. He stepped closer, and the beam of light revealed them. In the corner, crouched behind broken walls, was a woman. Not human. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes wide and glowing faintly in the dark. Her body was thin, her clothes torn, and in her arms she held 2 small children. The children pressed themselves against her, frightened, their small faces showing hunger and fear. They looked at Orion with silent eyes, as if unsure if he was hope or danger. The mother trembled. She raised her hand, not in attack, but in a plea. Her voice was weak, broken, but it carried desperate strength. "Please, help us." Orion froze. An alien mother, 2 children, alone, on a world destroyed by war. His mind raced with questions. How had they survived? Why were they here? Were they refugees or bait for a trap? The woman's voice shook again. We are alone. No food, no home, no one left. Please, do not leave us." Her words were broken, her human language rough, but the meaning was clear. She was begging, not for herself, but for the children who clung to her side. Their small hands gripped her torn clothes as if she were the only thing keeping them alive. Orion stepped forward slowly. His helmet light moved across their faces. He saw the mother's eyes fill with tears. She was not lying to him. He saw true fear and sorrow in her eyes, but also a quiet strength. She was weak, but she was still fighting for her children. The silence of the ruins pressed heavily around them. The air was dry and bitter. In the distance, faint thunder rumbled, though the sky was clear. Orion felt the weight of the moment. He was one man with a ship, passing through a ruined world. Yet in front of him was life, fragile and desperate, asking for something more than food or shelter. They were asking for survival. The children's stomachs growled softly. The sound cut through the heavy air like a cry. Orion felt something shift inside him. He had seen battle, death, and cruelty across many worlds, but here, in the ruins of a dead city, he was looking at innocence barely holding on. The mother's voice trembled again. I beg you, take us. Protect us. Without you, we die." Her glowing eyes did not leave his. She was not asking for charity. She was not even asking for safety. She was asking for something deeper, something heavier. Though she had not said the full truth yet, Orion already sensed it. Her request would not be simple. It would change everything. Orion's hand tightened on his weapon, then slowly fell away. He reached into his pack and pulled out a food ration. He placed it gently on the floor between them and stepped back. The children looked at their mother, waiting for her sign. She nodded weakly, and they reached forward. their small hands shaking as they grabbed the food. They ate quickly with quiet gasps of hunger. Orion watched them, his face calm, but his mind restless. In that moment, Orion knew this was no ordinary encounter. Something larger waited behind this fragile scene. The mother had not told him everything. There was more in her eyes. Fear of something bigger, something still out there. The ruins whispered again as a gust of wind swept through. Shadows shifted. For a heartbeat, Orion felt as if they were being watched. He turned, scanning the broken walls, but saw nothing, yet the feeling stayed. The mother pulled her children closer. Her voice, soft as a dying flame, rose once more. Human, do not leave. We need you. More than food. More than shelter. Please, listen. Orion's heart pounded. He had found life in a dead city. But what he had truly found was the beginning of a choice that would decide not only their survival, but perhaps his own. And in the cold silence of the alien ruins, the story truly began. The ruins were still and heavy with silence. Captain Orion stood in the broken hall, watching the alien mother feed her children with the food ration he had given. Their small hands shook as they ate, as if afraid the meal might vanish. The mother did not eat. She only looked at them with soft eyes, her own hunger ignored. Orion studied her carefully. Pale blue skin, thin from weakness, clothes torn by struggle. Yet her gaze was sharp, her movements protective. She was no ordinary wanderer. She carried herself with quiet strength, though her body trembled with exhaustion. When the children finished, the mother finally spoke again. Her words were broken, her voice heavy with desperation. You, human, strong. You have ship. You have power. I beg you. She looked straight into Orion's eyes, and what she said next froze him. Take me, as your wife. Take my children. Protect us, or we die. Orion blinked. For a moment he thought he had misheard her. A wife? Was this a trick? His mind raced with confusion. He had crossed many worlds, faced raiders, smugglers, and outlaws, but never had he heard such a request. The mother continued, her voice shaking, but her words firm. Not love, not dream, survival, only survival. Enemies hunt me, enemies hunt my children. If you leave us, they will find us, they will kill us. But if you take me as wife, they cannot touch me. They cannot touch them. Orion's jaw tightened. Her words were strange, yet the fear in her eyes was real. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Who hunts you? The mother pulled her children close. Their small eyes darted nervously to the broken windows as if the shadows themselves might come alive. She whispered, Raiders, soldiers, they destroyed my people, burned our cities. I am last of my kind. They search until I am gone. If I am wife to human, I am no longer theirs. I am safe, my children safe. Her words were heavy, each one filled with pain. Orion could almost see the images in his mind. Cities burning, screams in the night, soldiers chasing survivors through the ruins. She was not lying. The sorrow in her trembling voice could not be faked. Still, Orion felt torn. He had lived as a soldier and explorer. He knew the dangers of taking in strangers. He knew that once he carried them on his ship, his life would never be the same. But as he looked at the children, small, fragile, clinging to their mother, he felt the weight of their fear. The younger child spoke for the first time, his voice barely a whisper. Please, human, don't let bad men take us. The words pierced Orion's chest like a blade. He remembered another time long ago, when war had left children crying on the streets of Earth. He had seen the same eyes back then, the eyes of the innocent, begging for protection. The mother lowered her head, her voice breaking. I have nothing to give, no wealth, no power, only promise. I will serve, I will obey, I will stay by your side. Just save my children. Let them live. Orion felt a storm inside him. This was no ordinary plea. This was a desperate bond, a chain she wanted to forge to survive. She was asking him not just for help, but for a role that carried deep meaning among her people. If he accepted, he would not only protect them, he would become their shield, their family. The ruins around them seemed to lean in closer, listening. The silence grew heavier. Somewhere in the distance, faint engines hummed like ships searching in the night. The danger she spoke of was not far away. Orion took a deep breath. His voice was steady, though his mind was restless. You ask for much, a bond that cannot be undone. Why me? The mother's glowing eyes met his. Tears shimmered in them, but there was fire too. Because you are human. Raiders fear humans. Your kind strong, your kind free. If you claim me, they cannot take me. They cannot kill my children. You, our last hope. Her words echoed in the broken chamber. The children's small faces turned to Orion, eyes wide with silent pleading. For the first time, Orion felt the true weight of the choice. It was not just about saving 3 lives. It was about standing against the enemies who hunted them. It was about becoming something more than an explorer, becoming protector, father, husband in name, if not in love. The engines in the distance grew louder. Shadows shifted across the ruins. The danger she spoke of was coming closer. The mother whispered again, softer this time, as if she feared the night itself might hear. Please, human. Take us. Take me. Or soon, it will be too late. Orion's hand tightened on his weapon. His heart pounded. He had to choose. And in that desperate silence, with fear pressing from every side, he realized her plea was not just survival. It was the beginning of something that could change both their worlds. The mother and children climbed carefully into the tunnel, their movements quiet as ghosts. Orion followed, scanning behind them as the raiders' voices grew fainter. For now they had escaped, but he knew it would not last. The raiders were relentless. They would keep searching, keep hunting, until they had what they wanted. As they crouched in the tunnel, the mother looked at Orion with trembling eyes. You see now why I beg. They never stop. Never. Orion nodded grimly. He had seen enemies like this before, enemies who destroyed entire worlds for power. And now, by helping her, he had placed himself in their path. Above them, the ships hovered like predators waiting for prey. Shadows in the sky, watching, searching. Orion tightened his grip on his weapon. They won't stop, but neither will I. In that dark tunnel, surrounded by the echoes of the hunt, the human's vow became clear. The fight was only beginning. The tunnel was cold and silent, but Captain Orion knew silence never lasted long in enemy territory. The mother and her children huddled in the shadows, their glowing eyes faintly lighting the dark. Dust fell from above with every distant thump of raider boots. The hunters were closing in. Orion adjusted his wrist console. His portable cloak flickered weakly. The device was not built to hide 4 people for long. It would fail soon, and when it did, they would be exposed. He needed to move them to safety. But the ruins offered no easy path. Then came the sound that froze them all. A low hum. The vibration of engines growing stronger. The raider ships were descending lower, surrounding the city with mechanical wings. And then, screams of metal, heavy pods slammed into the ground. The hunters were deploying assault units. The search was over. Now came the kill. The mother gasped, clutching her children tighter. They know. They come for me. Orion pulled, his blaster from its holster. His voice was calm, steady. Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't run into the open. The tunnel shook as explosions thundered across the ruins. Red beams of energy lit the night, tearing holes through broken walls. Raiders shouted orders, their voices cruel and certain. Surround the area. She is here. Do not let her escape. Dust rained down from the tunnel ceiling. The younger child whimpered softly, covering his ears from the noise. Orion crouched, steadying his breath. His training took over. Every battle had rhythm, every fight its flow. He listened to the echoes, measured the distance of footsteps, the pause between shots. Then, without warning, part of the tunnel wall exploded inward. A raider soldier crashed through the dust, visor glowing red, weapon ready. The mother screamed, pulling her children close. But Orion was faster. His blaster roared once, a beam striking the raider's chest. The armored body fell hard against the stone, smoke rising from the glowing wound. The children stared wide-eyed, silent with shock. "There'll be more," Orion said sharply. "Move now." They ran deeper into the tunnel, the mother holding her children close, Orion covering the rear. The air filled with the echo of boots and metal as raiders poured into the ruins above. Suddenly, another blast ripped through the ground ahead, blocking their escape. A squad of raiders dropped into the tunnel, weapons raised. Trapped. The leader stepped forward, his voice echoing like steel. "Hand her over, human. She is marked. Interfere and you die with her." Orion's stance hardened. His blaster hummed, ready to fire. His voice cut through the dust. "You'll have to go through me." The raiders raised their weapons. The tunnel exploded with light. Beams shot across the darkness, striking walls, shattering stone. Orion fired back, each shot precise, deadly. He moved like a storm, ducking, rolling, firing again. Raiders fell, armor smoking, but more pressed forward. The mother shielded her children behind a pile of stone, whispering for them to stay quiet. Tears filled her eyes, not from fear alone, but from the weight of watching someone risk his life for them. Orion took a hit across his arm. His armor absorbed most of the blast, but pain surged through him. He gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. He fired back, striking 2 more raiders down. The tunnel shook with the chaos of battle, but they were outnumbered. For every raider he dropped, more appeared. They moved like wolves, circling, pressing closer. The mother cried out suddenly. One raider had broken past Orion, charging toward the children. The boy screamed. The girl clung to her mother's arm. Orion spun, firing in a blur. The beam cut the raider down inches before he reached them. The smell of scorched armor filled the air. The fight raged on. Orion's weapon overheated, the barrel glowing red. He switched to his blade, a short plasma edge that cut through armor like cloth. He moved fast, striking, blocking, slashing. The tunnel became a storm of light and shadows, every strike echoing through the ruins. Finally, the raiders pulled back. Their leader snarled through his visor. "This is not the end, human. You cannot protect them forever." They retreated, into the smoke, vanishing back into the ruins. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Only the crackle of broken stone and the echo of Orion's breathing filled the tunnel. Orion dropped to one knee, clutching his wounded arm. Sweat ran down his face. The mother rushed to him, her hands trembling as she touched the burn. "You are hurt," she whispered. "I've been worse," Orion muttered, forcing himself to stand. His eyes scanned the shadows. "But this was just the first wave. They'll come again, stronger." The children ran to him, their small hands clutching his armor. The girl looked up, her eyes wide. "You saved us." Orion paused. The weight of her words pressed deeper than any wound. He looked at their frightened faces, then at the mother who still trembled yet held her head high. He realized this fight was no longer just survival. The raiders would keep coming until she and her children were gone. If he stayed, he would face endless battles. If he left, they would die within hours. For the first time, Orion understood the true meaning of her plea. She was not asking for mercy. She was asking for a shield, for a warrior who would stand when no one else would. Above the ruins, the raider ships circled again. Shadows moved in the smoke. The attack was not over. It had only just begun. And deep inside, Orion knew he had stepped into a war that was no longer only hers. It was his now, too. The battle smoke still lingered in the tunnel. Broken stone glowed faintly from the heat of plasma fire, and the air smelled of burned metal. Captain Orion leaned against the wall, his arm aching from the wound. His breathing was heavy, but his eyes stayed sharp. He knew the fight was far from over. The alien mother knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to check his injury. The children clung to her, their glowing eyes wide with fear. Yet in their gaze, Orion also saw something else, trust, a fragile hope that he would keep them safe. "You saved us again," the mother whispered, her voice breaking. "But I cannot let you fight for me without knowing the truth. You deserve to know who I am, and why they will never stop hunting me." Orion's brow furrowed. He had sensed from the beginning that her story was deeper than survival. He nodded for her to continue. The mother drew a shaky breath, her pale skin shining in the dim light of the tunnel. "My name is Lyra. I am not just a refugee. I am the last living daughter of the royal house of Chiron, the ruling family of my people. When the raiders invaded, they destroyed our cities, slaughtered our armies, and hunted my family. They knew that if even one of us survived, my people could rise again." Her voice trembled, but her eyes hardened with quiet fire. "I am the last. My blood carries the line they fear. My children are the only heirs left. That is why they hunt us. That is why they will not stop, no matter where we hide." The children pressed closer to her as if the weight of her words made the shadows colder. Orion stared at her, his jaw tight. The truth was heavier than he expected. She was not only a mother protecting her children, she was the final spark of a fallen kingdom. Lyra lowered her head, her voice softening. "I asked you to take me as wife because I have no other way to survive. If I am bound to you, the raiders cannot claim me. In their law, in their code, a claimed wife of another species is untouchable. If you accept me, they lose their right to kill me. My children will live under your shield." Her words echoed in the silence of the tunnel, filling it with a weight Orion could not ignore. He studied her carefully. She was thin, fragile, her body marked by suffering, yet her spirit burned like a flame that refused to die. She had carried her children through fire, across ruins, against an enemy that destroyed entire worlds. And still she stood, begging not for herself, but for their future. Orion's thoughts churned. A royal heir, the last of her bloodline. If he took her in, if he accepted the vow, it would not just be survival. It would mean stepping into a war much larger than himself. The raiders would mark him as their enemy, and the galaxy might notice the union. This was not a simple rescue anymore. It was history shaping itself in the ruins. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "If you say no, I will not beg again. But you must know, without you, we will not live much longer. The raiders will find us. They will burn us until nothing is left. My children will never see the stars again." The children looked at Orion, their faces pale and afraid. The boy whispered softly, "Please, don't let them take Mother." The girl added, her small voice trembling, "We can be family. You don't have to be alone anymore. We can stay with you." The ruins whispered with the sound of distant engines. Captain Orion stood frozen in the half-broken chamber, his mind torn between duty and doubt. The alien mother's plea still echoed in his ears, her request that he take her as his wife, for survival. Her glowing eyes begged for an answer, and her children clung tightly to her side. Orion's heart was steady in battle, but now it felt heavy. This was not a fight with guns or steel. This was a decision that could change the course of his life. He had fought wars, survived ambushes, crossed uncharted stars, but never had he been asked for something so personal, so binding. He looked again at the mother. Her pale blue skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, her face thin from hunger, but unbroken in spirit. She was desperate, yet there was dignity in her words. She had not begged for herself, she had begged for her children. That truth made her plea more powerful, more dangerous to ignore. Still, Orion's thoughts raced. What if this is a trap? Raiders were known to use bait, families in need, weak survivors, to lure men like him into ambush. If he agreed, he might doom himself. If he refused, innocent lives might end before his eyes. The conflict tore at him like knives. The younger child tugged gently at his mother's arm. Mother, will he help us? The boy whispered, his voice small as the wind. Mother pressed her lips together. She said nothing, but her eyes shimmered with tears she would not let fall. She did not want her children to see her despair. Orion stepped back, pacing slowly across the cracked floor. His boots echoed against the stones, filling the silence. His mind replayed her words. Take me as wife. Protect us. Such a bond was heavy, more than simple rescue. Among her people, wifehood was not only family, it was protection by law, by tradition. If he accepted, it meant declaring before the galaxy that he claimed her and the children as his own. Was he ready for that? Could a lone soldier carry such a burden? Orion thought of Earth. He remembered his comrades in battle, many of whom had fallen. He remembered the faces of civilians during the wars, families running from fire, children crying in the smoke. He had saved some. He had failed others. The memory of those he could not save burned in his heart still. Perhaps that was why the children's eyes struck him so deeply now. The sound of the engines grew closer, vibrating faintly through the walls. The mother looked toward the window, fear tightening her face. She whispered, "They come. If you leave now, we die." Her words were simple, final. Orion's hand went to his sidearm. He was trained never to let emotion guide him. But this was no ordinary mission. This was not war. This was survival, fragile and close. He turned back to her. If I take you, if I protect you, they will follow. Do you understand? My enemies will become your enemies too. The mother nodded slowly. Her voice was soft but firm. I know. But my children already hunted, already marked for death. Better to fight beside strong man than die alone. Her courage surprised him. She was weak in body but fierce in spirit. For a moment, Orion felt a strange respect for her. The older child, a girl with wide glowing eyes, stepped forward. She spoke carefully in broken human words. Please, human. You have power. We have nothing. Don't let shadows take us. Her words hit Orion harder than any weapon. He saw no deceit in her eyes, only raw fear mixed with fragile hope. Orion exhaled slowly. His dilemma tightened like a rope around his chest. If he agreed, his path would be sealed. If he refused, the image of these children dying would haunt him forever. The engines outside roared louder now, shaking dust from the ceiling. Time was slipping away. He had to choose. He clenched his fists. His voice was low, almost to himself. Damn it, I can't walk away. The mother's eyes widened, her breath catching. The children held tighter to her arms, but Orion raised a hand. I have not decided fully. I will protect you now. I will take you away from here. But understand this. I am no savior. If you want me to be husband, that is a vow I do not make lightly. You will earn it with truth. You must tell me everything. The mother lowered her head, relief and fear mixing in her trembling body. I will tell. All truth. Just save us now. Orion nodded sharply. His decision was not final, but his course was set. He would not let them die here. He turned to the broken wall, scanning the shadows. The engines outside had stopped. That meant only one thing. The hunters had landed. He looked back at the mother and children. Stay close, do exactly as I say. The ruins fell into silence once more, but the silence was sharper, heavier. Danger had arrived. Orion's dilemma was no longer only in his mind. It had stepped into the ruins with them. And as the footsteps of raiders echoed faintly through the night, Orion knew his choice would soon be tested in fire. The ruins grew colder as the night deepened. Dust rolled through broken streets, carried by the restless wind. Captain Orion kept his eyes on the shattered windows, his hand tight on his weapon. The faint hum of engines had stopped, but that silence only made the air heavier. It was the silence before the storm. The alien mother held her children close, her body trembling. She knew the sound all too well, the sound of ships belonging to the raiders. Her glowing eyes scanned the darkness, searching for movement in the shadows. Her heart raced with fear, yet she stayed still, because sudden movement might give them away. Orion raised a hand, signaling her to stay quiet. His voice was low, calm, but firm. "They're here. Stay behind me. Don't make a sound." The children nodded silently, pressing against their mother's torn clothes. Their small eyes reflected fear, but they trusted the strange human who now stood between them and death. From the broken doorway, Orion saw them. 4 raider ships hovered above the ruins, dark and sharp like vultures circling prey. Their lights scanned the city, beams of red sweeping across the rubble. Shadows stretched long across the walls as the light passed, making the ruins look alive with movement. Then came the sound of boots. Heavy, steady, merciless. Raiders had landed. They spread out through the streets, their weapons glowing faintly in the dark. They were armored, tall, and ruthless. Orion had faced their kind before. They had no pity, no mercy. If they found the mother and children, they would kill them without hesitation. One raider's voice echoed through the ruins, sharp and cruel. "Search every corner. The woman is here. The bloodline must end tonight." The mother's eyes filled with tears, but she kept them silent. Her arms wrapped tighter around her children as though her embrace could make them invisible. Orion's jaw tightened. He understood now. The raiders were not here for food or treasure. They were here for her, for the last survivor of her people. The mother had not lied. She truly was being hunted. Orion tapped his wrist console. His ship's systems answered, silently, miles away on the edge of the ruins. He activated his portable cloaking field, a small device he carried for missions like this. A soft shimmer spread around them, bending the light, hiding their bodies from normal sight. "Stay inside the field," Orion whispered. "If you move outside, they will see you." The mother nodded quickly, pulling the children close. The 3 huddled together under the cloak's invisible shield, their breath shallow with fear. Through the broken wall, Orion watched the raiders search. They smashed into rooms, kicked down doors, and dragged shadows from their hiding places. But they found nothing. Not yet. Then, one raider turned toward their building. His glowing visor scanned the doorway. Slowly, he began walking closer. Each step echoed like thunder in Orion's ears. The mother's breath caught. The younger child whimpered softly, and Orion quickly pressed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. The raider paused, head tilted, as though he had heard something. He raised his weapon. Orion's muscles tensed. His weapon was ready, but if he fired now, the cloak would break and all the raiders would descend upon them. The raider stepped into the building. His visor light swept across the floor. Dust swirled in the beam. He moved slowly, carefully, scanning every corner. He passed so close that Orion could see the scratches in the armor, the scars of past battles. The mother held her children so tightly it hurt. She closed her eyes, praying silently that the cloak would hold. Then, as suddenly as he came, the raider turned and walked back toward the street. His voice carried over the ruins. "Nothing here. Keep searching." Orion let out a slow breath, his heart still racing. That had been too close. The raiders spread further into the city. Their ships hovered lower now, engines rumbling. The beams of light swept dangerously near the hiding place. At any moment, the cloak could falter, or a child's sound could betray them. Orion leaned close to the mother. His voice was barely a whisper. "They won't stop. They will search until they find you. Staying here means death. We need to move." Quietly. The mother's eyes widened, but she nodded. She trusted him now more than ever. Step by step, Orion guided them through the ruins, keeping them inside the cloak's shimmer. The raiders passed close, their boots clanging on the broken stone, but none noticed. The group moved like shadows within shadows. At last, they reached a deeper part of the ruins, a collapsed tunnel that led under the streets. Orion scanned it quickly. It was dark, but it would hide them from the ships above. "Down here," he whispered. Orion's chest tightened. For years he had wandered the stars alone, carrying only memories of comrades lost in war. He had told himself he needed no one, that solitude was safety. Yet here, in the dark, two children and their mother looked at him as if he were their last light. He turned his gaze back to Lyra. Her eyes glowed faintly, wet with tears but unbroken. She was not offering him wealth nor power. She was offering him a vow, a bond that carried both danger and meaning. Silence stretched in the tunnel. The distant hum of raider ships above reminded him that time was running short. At last, Orion spoke, his voice deep and steady. "I believe you. You are hunted not because of weakness, but because of what you carry inside. Your bloodline, your children, your hope. If I walk away now, I am no better than the raiders who destroyed your people." Lyra's breath caught. Her eyes widened with disbelief. Orion continued, his tone firm. "But know this, I do not take vows lightly. If I accept this bond, it is for life, not just survival. You will be under my protection, and your children will be mine to shield. The raiders will come for me too. My enemies will become yours. There will be no turning back." Tears slid down Lyra's cheeks. She lowered her head and whispered, "Then let it be so. Take me as wife. Take them as your own. Let us live, not as prey, but as family." The children clung to Orion's arm, their small voices whispering, "Please." "Yes." Orion stood tall, his weapon still in his hand. His decision, carved in stone, the truth had been revealed, and with it, a vow was sealed in the shadows of the ruins. Above them, the raider ships circled once more, preparing for another strike. But this time, Orion was no longer just a lone wanderer. He was protector, guardian, and now by choice, bound to a destiny far greater than himself. And in that silent vow, the war truly began. The night sky above the ruined city burned with red lights. Raider ships circled like predators, their engines growling in the darkness. The broken towers glowed faintly as search beams swept across them, hunting for what they could not yet see. Inside the collapsed tunnel, Captain Orion stood tall, his weapon firm in his hand. Beside him was Lyra, the alien mother who had revealed the truth of her bloodline, and her two children, eyes wide with hope and fear. The vow he had made to them still hung heavy in the air, unspoken yet unbreakable. Kiwi. Silence was sharp. Even the children did not dare breathe loudly. Orion adjusted his console, checking the cloak device. It was nearly drained, flickering weakly. They could not stay here much longer. He looked at Lyra. "We move now. My ship is outside the ruins. If we can reach it, we'll break through their blockade." Lyra nodded, holding her children close. Her glowing eyes shone with trust, though her body trembled with exhaustion. "We follow you. To the stars, if you lead us." Orion's gaze hardened. "Then stay close. No matter what happens, don't stop." The group slipped out of the tunnel into the ruins. The streets were shattered, lit by beams of raider light cutting across the night. They moved quietly, their steps careful. Orion's senses sharpened. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light could mean death. They crept through an alley of fallen towers. The children clung to their mother's hands, their small breaths quick and shallow. Above them, a raider ship hovered low, its spotlight scanning the rubble. Orion raised his fist, signaling them to freeze. The light swept across the alley, stopping, only feet from their position. The cloak shimmered weakly, barely holding. For one terrible second, Orion thought it would fail. But the beam moved on and the ship rumbled away. The boy let out a tiny gasp, and Lyra quickly pressed a hand to his lips, whispering softly, "Quiet, little star. Quiet." Step by step they pushed forward. At last, Orion's ship came into view, a sleek craft hidden among the ruins, its metal scarred but strong. Relief filled Lyra's eyes, but it was short-lived. From the shadows ahead, figures emerged. Raiders, A full squad, blocking the path to the ship. Their leader stepped forward, visor glowing crimson. His voice cut through the night. Human, you protect what is not yours. Hand over the woman and the spawn. Walk away and we may let you live. Orion's jaw tightened. He raised his weapon, standing tall. His voice was cold as iron. They're mine now. If you want them, you'll have to kill me. The raiders raised their rifles. The air filled with the crackling hum of charged plasma. Then, explosions. Orion fired first, beams cutting through the night. The battle erupted in fire and smoke. Raiders rushed forward, their shots tearing through the rubble. Orion moved like lightning, his blaster in one hand, plasma blade in the other. He struck with precision, every move honed by years of war. Lyra shielded the children behind a broken wall, her voice steady despite her fear. Stay low. Stay hidden. Trust him. The fight raged. Raiders fell, one after another, but more closed in. Orion took a blast across his shoulder, his armor sparking. Pain burned through him, but he fought harder, driven not by survival alone, but by the faces watching him from the shadows. At last, with a final strike of his blade, the leader of the raiders collapsed. The rest pulled back, retreating to their ships. The ruins fell into silence once more, broken only by the hiss of smoke. Orion staggered, blood on his armor, but he stood tall. Lyra rushed to him, her eyes wet with tears. You risked everything. For us. He looked at her, breathing hard. I told you. You're under my protection now. The children ran to him, their arms wrapping around his legs. For the first time since he had met them, Orion felt something stir inside him, a warmth he had long forgotten, a sense of belonging. They boarded his ship together. The engines roared to life, lifting them from the ruins. Lyra held her children close as the stars spread before them. She looked at Orion with quiet wonder. You gave us more than safety. You gave us a future. Orion didn't answer. His eyes were on the dark sky, scanning for danger. The raiders had retreated, but he knew this was not the end. As they broke through the clouds, the stars opened wide. But in the distance, faint on his sensors, a new signal appeared. Not raiders, something larger, stronger. Watching. A deep chill filled the cabin. Orion tightened his grip on the controls. We're not safe yet. Someone else is out there. The children leaned against their mother, eyes heavy with sleep. Lyra's voice was soft but steady. Then we faced them together. Orion looked at her, then at the children. His heart, once heavy with solitude, now carried a vow. They were his now, family, forged in fire. But beyond the stars, a greater storm was waiting, and as the ship vanished into the night sky, the true story of Orion, Lyra, and her children had only just begun.